One.
Hi, we're here with Corbin, a resident of Sidney, Nebraska. Just going to talk to you guys a little bit about an insider's perspective on the town of Sidney. So, Corbin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like Maris said, I've lived in the town of Sidney since I was about 2 years old. I was born in McCook, moved to Lincoln. Sister was born in Lincoln, ended up moving to Sidney, and I went to Sidney from preschool up until 8th grade. Even though I lived in Sidney, I didn't go to school there. Went to school in the town of Peets, Colorado, about 15 minutes south. But, yep, lived in Sidney the majority of my life. My dad owns the Runza in Sidney, and my mom works at Cabela's like the majority of the population does. So,
All right. So, in your time at Sidney, would you describe it as a positive or negative experience?
I would say more positive than negative, just because, the school system especially, I was a really big fan of it growing up, but by when I reached middle school, I really didn't fit in anywhere, so I decided to go to a smaller school. But when it comes to living in the town of Sidney, I would say everything was pretty all right. There was never really any complications with anything. Just power shortages here and there sometimes, but nothing really that I experienced. So.
Okay, so in your time at Sidney, were you ever aware of any environmental issues with the town, in general, that affected you maybe?
Well, when I was there, not so much. There was a couple big factories growing up. ADC was one of them, and then they got bought out. And I know that they were researching chemicals and different things like that, electricity, and but with Cabela's taking over the majority of the buildings in Sidney most of the time, places got bought out, or it deterred people from coming in. So that really drove the industry. I know that the water treatment plant is currently going to be going under construction in the next couple months or years. I can't really remember what the timeline was on that, but it needed some renovations, and I know that the city's been looking into that for a while. So other than that, not really.
Okay, have you ever had an experience where you felt unsafe in the town of Sidney?
Unsafe in the town of Sidney. Where I lived on the south side of Sidney, and the south side of Sidney is the majority of the middle class. The majority of the people that live there are people that work at Cabela's and that kind of thing. So I was lucky. I know the education system kind of was going under some turmoil for some time because it was kind of split into two. The north side had their education and the south side had ours. And when I got into first and second grade, they kind of morphed the two systems, and it allowed the town of Sidney to grow a little bit and the population to unite a little bit more. But
sure,
never felt unsafe at all. So.
Okay, can you rate the services of Sidney from 1 to 5? 5 being the best, an example of this with the fire and rescue and the police, and then the road maintenance and stuff like that.
I would say about a 3. When I was younger, we used to have power outages all the time, so I mean that's just stuff I remember. The police force in Sidney has faced some turmoil in the last couple of years, just because their police chief has gone under some fire because he was forging some documents, and I know there's a lot of conversation still going on about that. But he was really big into the politics in Sidney, and I know that some people were really hesitant with kicking him off the board or different boards and stuff, just because he played such a big role, and he was genuinely a nice guy in the town, but obviously was doing some not so nice things. But other than that, I would say everything's pretty good from what I've seen from my experiences in Sidney. So,
how do you like the road system setup of Sidney?
Well, they just built a new hospital last year, and they just built